Good evening, and thank you for joining us on what is a very exciting broadcast for ourselves. I'm joined by an OBG member I'm going to introduce shortly, but we're previewing the start of the EPL season. It's back, finally, well, nearly, after a really, really long summer of trying to put up with the Copa America and some under-21 tournaments. We've got proper football coming back, and it's going to be better than ever. Today, we're going to focus on the title race for this sort of 20-minute or so video. Good evening to yourself, Gio. You've got some strong views around the top four this season.
Yeah, I can't wait to discuss West Ham, Sam.
Can't wait to discuss West Ham. He's a comedian as well. Don't worry, there'll be very limited West Ham chat on this particular broadcast. We are focusing on the big boys, the top guns, the people that you want to know or you will have an opinion on who is going to win the title this season in England. It's obviously going to be competitive. Gio, touch on last season quickly. Bit of a boring title race in the end. Chelsea handed out to the end.
Wrapped up by Christmas, wasn't it? It was no thrills in the second half of the season, just pure efficiency from Mourinho and his side.
Right, let's bring up this year's title odds because I think this is fascinating to a lot of people. I'll start by referencing, Gio, something that you might find interesting. I went and did a bit of a straw poll around the OLBG members and headed to the Ante post section. Who do you think had more votes to win the title next season, Chelsea or Manchester United?
Probably Chelsea.
It was Manchester United, 6-2 on the people I spoke to and read the comments of. A lot of them were saying they thought that Chelsea had a good chance of retaining it, but they believed that the price on Manchester United around the 5-1 mark was outstanding. What's your view on that 5-1? They're obviously a team in work in progress. If Wayne Rooney gets injured, they don't tend to have much of a backup striker. Do you think they're value?
They're better value than Chelsea, definitely. If I was to have to pick one of those two, it would be the Man U that would get my money. But I think that's a price that could disappear soon, actually. I think Man U are going to get a striker in soon. When the manager comes out and says that they're wanting a striker that hasn't been mentioned in the media, he's blatantly just came out and said they're looking to get a striker in. So if they can get a top striker in, I think that price might plummet a bit.
They're going to get someone. I think that's inevitable. I mean, I'm just going through some of the comments here now. Skyline Rob, good evening. You've said that United makes some outstanding value. They make good signings, solid signings. You think the value's there to be had, even if you're looking at an each way option, you want your money back, and they're going to come second. Miller Stango saying that they've been very active. So all these signings are impressing people, catching their eye. Whereas you look at the polar opposite of the two poor souls that have backed Chelsea, and they can't say they're impressed by signings, but they make a fair point. Reading Ralphie 1982's comments, whilst they haven't yet really dipped their toe in the transfer market, they had the best squad last season. They've got players like Kurt Zuma stepping up. They've got a good line of players. They don't even really need a striker when they're playing that defensive style, and Hazard can go up top on his own. Do you think the lack of goals would kill a Chelsea title this season? Do you think it's more competitive this season?
Yeah, I think the league's going to be a lot more competitive. I think the bottom of the table is going to be a lot stronger than it was last season as well. So I think there's going to be more shocks, if you like, in the next coming 12 months in the Barclays Premier League. Okay.
Manchester City are sat there. They're second favourites. Had a mixed pre-season, getting thumped by Real Madrid. Experimental teams put out both halves of that, so I don't think we're going to read too much into it. Sorry to say that Delph's picked up a knock and likely not to get his substitute appearances this season straight off the bat. Do you think the signing of Sterling will come on to? Do you think City are a team that look like they could bounce back? Do you think they've paid, good money in the transfer windows? They've kept Pellegrini on. Do you think they believe in him? I mean, there must be a reason they're hanging on to him.
Probably lack of options, isn't there? And like we touched on this at the end of last season, I'm convinced Pep Guardiola is already lined up, and it's just a case of we'll just keep him until Guardiola decides to leave Germany. But they're not my fancy. I'm not really inspired by them. Unless they let Joe Hart kick all the penalties, then maybe.
I think they're a band of mercenaries, frankly, that when they are on their day could beat anyone. I know plenty of OBG members like the idea of Aguero for top goal scorer. For me, he scores plenty of goals, but I think he gets injured too much, and you only need to see his hamstring go once, and that's him out for 3 months. City don't jump out at me, and they don't jump out at the OLBG members either. There's not many out there making a strong case that they feel that Man City are a value bet. The alternative option, I suppose, if you like, and a team that I felt were every bit as good, if not better, than Man City last season, is Arsenal. Give me a little oversight into your view on Arsenal, and if you think they can eventually become these title pretenders to title contenders to title winners.
Yeah, I think Arsenal might win the league this year. They're my fancy anyway. I'm not convinced, put it that way. I'm not like going to remortgage my house and jump on Arsenal. But if I was to pick one of those sides to win the title, it's Arsenal. And I think it's, like you said, we'll touch on the signings soon. It's because of that key signing. I think also Arsene Wenger displayed a bit of changed his character in the second half of the season last season by becoming less naive, if you like. He went to Man City and played a defensive formation, which is not something we've seen from Wenger before. And I think maybe he's just starting to adapt a little bit. I know you say you can't teach old dogs tricks, but perhaps you can.
10 years, and obviously he's come out and said that he's got money to be spending, or the chairman's come out and said he's got money to be spending. They do need to go and get that marquee striker to go alongside Sanchez. I don't think Giroud's going to do it for me this season. We've got Liverpool and Spurs on there, not to be too derogatory to them, but they're not in the title race really. But do you think they could take points off the top four? Do you think on their day they can match them and be up for a game and cause them problems?
As long as the other team's not on their day. I think if Chelsea are on their game, I think they'll leave the dispatch of Liverpool or Tottenham. But if one of the top four, if you like, are on an off day, another team are on the ball, then of course they can. But I don't know. I'm not really overly convinced by Liverpool or Tottenham. I'd be very surprised if that's not the top four we're looking at.
Really? You think it's going to be that order?
Yeah, well, not in that order necessarily, but that four teams, I think.
Oh yes, that's fine. Yeah, I saw quite Liverpool around 3-1 shot to get into the top four.
Last season, I thought Liverpool or Tottenham or even Everton, they were bad last season, but I thought them three might have snuck in, probably at this expense of Man U or Arsenal. But this season, I'm happy to write them off and say that I'm quite convinced that's going to be the top four.
I'm delighted we've got that on film, Gio, because obviously if something goes horribly wrong and Spurs have a title charge, we can remind you of that. I'd be amazed, and their odds at 100-1. I think they're missing a zero, frankly. Let's move on to the main top four and their acquisitions they've made this summer. We should get a graphic appearing shortly. We've just picked out, for time purposes, one player for each team. You really like Arsenal's chances this year as a betting proposition for the title at the prices. Petr Cech signing. Were you surprised that Chelsea inadvertently or advertently strengthened a rival?
A wee bit. Mourinho clearly didn't want him to go to Arsenal. That's understandable, but fair play to Abramovich for saying no. He's done his time at Chelsea. He's given over 10 years service. He's won his trophies. He's played a massive part in, let's just grant him the movie wishes, and he wanted to go to Arsenal. I still think he's the best keeper in the league. I think the only reason he didn't play last season is because it's a case of Mourinho succession planning, if you like, and starting to phase out his older legs and bring in, Courtois is now a top keeper and he needed game time to stay at Stamford Bridge. So, but yeah, huge transfer, that one.
That makes sense, and I think it's when we've had the tweets throughout the summer from OLBG members and non-members, it has been that signing was the first one that I think Arsenal fans as well believe, wow, we have got a player that will be winning, that is used to winning championships, that winning mentality. And if you can build that through the spine of your team, you have to look at Alexis Sanchez has been in finals of all sorts of things, playing well in World Cups, finals of Copa America. Their players, they're starting to have winning mentalities. And I think that's what Arsenal need. They need winners in that side, because the football's great, but sometimes you just need that get across the line mentality that Cech will have had instilled in him at Stamford Bridge. And if that rubs off on his teammates, they could become a very dangerous side.
Yeah, definitely. It just gives you confidence knowing that you've got a top keeper in goal as well. It might allow you to be a bit more expressive going forward, because you know that your last line of resort is world class, and it's, he doesn't make errors either. Chesney would probably be good for 3 errors a season or something, and quite often it would cost Arsenal points, like plural.
Cech will make 3 saves that will stop points being lost. I completely get your view on that. I suppose the next one we must whiz on to, And this was the interesting one. This was the signing that we had more interactions about that were positive than negative, but of a surprise nature. And it was Schweinsteiger going to Manchester United. It felt like it was something that should have been done 2-3 years ago with that Manchester United midfield. Whilst Michael Carrick was still in his prime, his goals obviously came and went. But Bastian Schweinsteiger, do you feel that he's a man that he's coming over here with a big reputation? A few years too late? Do you like the signing? Do you think he's the kind of eye-catching name that's going to instill that Manchester United mentality back into Old Trafford?
Well, there's a big signing, and it's good to see the Premier League attracting these names, because we've seen them ship out to Spain for too long now. But I'm not convinced. I think his best years are behind him, and 60 million is a lot of money for a 31-year-old, and I think he's quite injury-prone as well. But you just talked about Czech with winning mentality, and if there's anyone in the world with winning mentality, it's a Bayern Munich German international.
Exactly, and I know Manchester United spent big. We were having a bit of a debate in the office who to put on this slide. We chose Schweinsteiger because he divides opinion a bit. And I know you are concerned about his injury record. I've mentioned it as well. And if you like your fantasy football games out there, I don't think he'll be in most people's squads, because I don't think he's going to be... Bear in mind, Manchester United are going to be playing more football this year. He's going to have to compete in the Cups more. He's got European football, probably, providing they get to the right stages. For my money, I think Schweinsteiger might even... I'm not saying he'd be saved for it, but he might be a Champions League player for Manchester United more than a league player.
Yeah, I do wonder if he'll be suited to... I know there's that good old joke that can he do it in Stoke on a Tuesday night in December, but it does concern me. Can he?
I don't think he'll have to. I think he will be saved for the big games, and they're going to need him at his best. And I think they can't afford, with the money they've invested in him, he's going to have to be a success there. The other players around him might falter or flop, but he is on big money, and I think the jury's out. I think that's safe to say for both of us that we're not convinced yet. And he may go and win Player of the Year and have an outstanding autumn to his career, and we'll look very silly. But a man that I think will prove over longer term better value for money, I know he costs a silly amount, but his team can spend whatever they want, is Raheem Sterling. Now, we got plenty in from Liverpool fans. We've sold him for crazy money. I'm happy with the money. I'm gutted he's gone, but I'm happy with the money. He didn't have a great end to the season. He's not started, with Liverpool particularly well attitude-wise. But as a young English talent, how good is he?
He's just as good. I think you'll struggle to find a better 20-year-old than him. The only other English player that's young with huge potential is possibly going to Chelsea, but that's for another show. I think at 49 million, I think it's well worth the risk. I think if they could get 14 years service out of him if they really wanted to. But I think give it a couple of years, I think he could be like, I don't know if he'll ever reach world class, but training alongside Yaya Toure, David Silva, even like Sami Nasri, who are technically very good footballers, will have a huge impact on his game. And like the style of City suits him more. The style of Liverpool last season was different to the style we saw with Suarez and Sturridge, because the team just was not there, and I think that affected him massively. And I think he was a scapegoat. I think he was quite, he was getting shunted up front, and he's not a striker. I mean, look at his physique. He's getting balls launched.
City have toyed with putting him up top, and maybe as part of a little trio it's going to be. But you're right, he's going to have that technical support. And people moan about transfer fees. I think what we forget, and as fans and as pundits and what we read in the media, yes, he's been, they've given £50 million for him. This is nothing. You might as well ignore the fact there's a price tag and just say Manchester City have obtained a very good player with lots of potential. Providing he's handled in the right way, he could be an absolute star at that club. And I think he'll be a success. And I think, honestly, if you want to look at an option for player of the season next year, there won't be anyone out there more determined to prove their worth than Raheem Sterling. Plus, it's a year when a lot of national players in Europe are going to want to play well, because they're going to need to get into the sides for respective European Championship teams that will be looking to see who they're taking. England are more or less there. I'm not saying Sterling would walk into the team. He'd probably get in, but he's going to need to play well. So for that reason, I was really impressed with him. This was the signing we've all scratched our head out. We had to put a Chelsea one on here, and it was between Falcao and Asmir Begovic. Begovic is a great signing, good backup keeper. No more needs to be said. Falcao, Gio, did this baffle you as much as it baffled half the OLBG community when this transfer was announced? Or loan, I should say.
Well, if it's true that he's taking like a wage reduction or whatever, and the deal financially suits Chelsea a lot more than it suits Man U, but then it's well worth the risk. He's got raw ability. It's quite rare for a striker to have just genuine world class in his locker. We saw him against Chelsea a couple of years ago with Atletico Madrid. He absolutely tore them apart. I've never seen such a complete performance from a striker. I think he was.
He's lost his knees since then, Gio. He's got no knees. He didn't cruciate. He's never come back from that.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, there's always Schweinsteiger's injury prone, but yet Man U fans are happy to see him at Old Trafford, if you like. That's probably why he's on loan. He'll be a lot cheaper because of his injury cases. But I think he'll be a lot more successful at Chelsea than he was at Man U. I think the difference in the managers already is clear. Mourinho's been talking about how it was almost like unfair on Falcao to judge him on last season. I think he'll be determined to bring Falcao up to his best again, and he worked well with him at Porto, that's for sure.
The only thing is, if Diego Costa stays fit for the whole season, he's not going to get a sniff, is he?
No, but Diego Costa won't stay fit for the whole season.
He
still needs to be wrapped up in cotton wool, if you like. They've got Remy as well, who's no mug. I really like Remy as a player, but I think it's low risk. At the end of the season, they can turn around and send him back to Monaco if it doesn't work out. So.
And you had a bet, I think, for Falcao, didn't you? You quite fancied some odds you were going to share with us.
It's not necessarily a bet I'll be doing because I think he's going to do well. But if you do think he's going to flop, then you can get 5-1 for him to score 5 or less Premier League goals. And it's specific about Premier League goals because if he only plays cup games and that, they don't count. So I think it's for value. I think that's worth the value.
An interesting one, isn't it? Unless he gets Norwich at home and Norwich are down to 9-10 men or something, I don't think he's going to be rattling in more than one when he plays. So I think that could be a little bit of a shrewd bet there. So those are what we've highlighted as some of the most interesting, if you like. It says top transfers. Chelsea, we didn't have much choice, but I do think the other three are very interesting. You'll be keeping your eye up to the deadline, I know, Gio, on transfers in and out. Do you expect any of those teams to continue doing business? Who do you think is going to make the biggest signing after this point, if you like?
Probably Arsenal or Man City. I think Arsenal, like you said, have got a bit of money there. And they're always very careful in the transfer market, Arsenal, and I think they're just watching it. I think they probably highlight a couple of players and they're just sitting watching it, just seeing what's happening elsewhere. Man City, I think they know they need to spend big. I wouldn't be surprised if Pogba still rocks up there. I know Juventus has said he's not for sale, etc., but
going somewhere. Be interesting to see. Right, we've now moved on to our next slide. Now, Gio, this will take you a bit by surprise, so I didn't prepare you for this. It's our top team players. I asked a few OLBG members to nominate prospective top players, if you like, and I think a lot of them picked themselves. We've got Eden Hazard at Chelsea, Yaya Toure at Man City, Wayne Rooney at Manchester United, and Alexis Sanchez at Arsenal. Gio, you agree with those four? You think they're all pretty influential at their respective clubs, or would you like to take issue with any of them?
No, can't really argue. I think. No, I'll agree with those four. I think Toure is a bit iffy, but then there's no one really to replace him, bar Aguero, I suppose. So, no, I'm happy with those four. Don't worry about it. Carry on, Sam.
That's fine. Now, from a betting perspective, each of those players have had huge impacts on their team. I'd say the one that probably hasn't recently is Wayne Rooney, but we understand he's going to be shuffled back up to being a main striker. Does he enter your thoughts as a possible bet for top goal scorer because of that? Or are you still thinking if Manchester United go and sign that striker, he'll be playing a bit deeper?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think they're going to get a top striker. I think he'll, again, it's his own worst enemy. He's so unselfish. He's the type of player that would happily have a poor game if it meant his team winning. But then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got a lot of players in the Premier League that don't really care if their team wins as long as they play well. A bit controversial, I know, but I genuinely think there's players out there that are like that.
Rooney's not a passenger, is he? He will go back and defend. United are 1-0 up with the corner to go. He'll go back and clear it off the line. He's not afraid of that.
He's a massive team player. Will he be top goal scorer? I don't think so personally, but I can see how.
You're taking on Gio, you're taking on the OLBG members. A lot of them are putting them up at 16s, 20 to 1s each way as a great shout.
I can see why people are doing that, but for me, I don't know. I think he's his own worst enemy, though. I just think he just comes back far too deep, and I think Valhalla will know that if they're struggling in midfield, that he can always just pull Rooney back in to sort it out a bit.
That's fine, I understand. And come winter time, and he's on maybe 8 goals, and you're getting a bit excited, a bit jiggy about your leading goal scorer. I bet you're going to be very frustrated when you find him playing midfield because United have got an injury crisis. Eden Hazard, we'll touch on him quickly. Chelsea, with or without him, if they didn't have him, frankly, they wouldn't be half the team, would they?
Yeah, match winner, isn't he? Wins point on.
I'd go as far as say if he missed 3 months of the season out with injury, unless Chelsea went and signed someone amazing in the next few days, I think he's such a big miss to them. I think all the others are replaceable. I don't think Hazard is.
No, I do agree with that. He's just the best player in the league.
And we hope to see him continue this league. Because if obviously he continues in the same form, he may be off in the summer. Who knows next year? We'll see. Yaya Toure, highly publicised. You're a fan of him. I think he's inconsistent. And a few OLBG members have picked up on this in the forum in match days. It's all or nothing with him. And a few people don't like that. What's your view on Yaya?
Great player, but he's got a horrible attitude, I think. The cake incident's just summed him up. But like I just said, there's players out there that don't really care about losing as long as they play well, and I think Yaya might fall into that category.
No.
Just if his team are playing well and it's going good, he's a different class. But I think if it's getting tough and it's a frustrating game to play, the opposition's well drilled, I think he just loses interest too often. He starts shooting from 40 odd yards out and stuff, and it's a shame because he is one of the best players that's ever been in the Premier League. But I don't know. I just don't question. I'm surprised he's still at Man City, to be honest.
I think we were all expecting him to disappear off to France and enjoy a bit of time with PSG or possibly even Italy. We'll finish up on Alexis Sanchez, who this man has been a fantastic player for Arsenal so far. Great signing. But boy, he must need a break. He's done a World Cup straight into a Premier League season, straight into a Copa America. We understand he's likely to miss the first few games in the Charity Shield. Do you think he might be a little bit worn in the second season syndrome in the Premier League for Sanchez?
No, I don't know, he's an athlete, isn't he? Even at the end of last season, despite playing all these games and all the travelling he did backwards and forwards, he still had that energy come on Saturday afternoon. And 28 to 1 for Arsenal win the title, and for him to win the PFA Player of the Year.
Goes hand in hand, I suppose, in that sense.
If Arsenal are to win the title, they'll need him to drag them there, if you like. And like I said, it's much better value than 4 to 1 or whatever for Arsenal to win the league.
No, that's absolutely fine. I like your angle, and so do the members that watch this. We enjoy that aspect of it. I'll put one question to you while we've still got the slide up for the top team players. Who would be the biggest loss for their team if they were injured, suspended, or not available?
Hazard.
I'd agree with you completely, personally, on that one. I think Sanchez, whilst instrumental for Arsenal, I think they can play without him. United would be short of strikers, but I'm sure they'll be signing somebody. City have played without Toure before when they lose into the African Cup of Nations. I think Chelsea, Hazard, I would be very wary, Chelsea backers, if they were even 6 points clear at halfway through the season. Hazard got a big injury, I would be laying that bet off.
Yeah, I also worry if come the end of the season if he starts ducking out of challenges to make sure he's fit for France come the summer.
Very lucrative tournament for commercial opportunities as well as football opportunities. And
the fact he's playing for Belgium as well, who have a very good chance of winning it. You don't want to miss that tournament, do you?
No, and that's a very fair point, Gio. Well, I suppose the last thing we need to do, I'll bring back up the price grid, and you're just going to have to go through each team. I want 30 seconds just saying why they will or won't win the title, or a bit of both if you really want. We'll start, if you like, with, let's have a little look there. We'll start with the champions-elect. Give me one reason why they will win the title.
They're efficient, they're a manager, and they're well drilled.
Excellent. I like it. Plenty of people on the OLBG site that have tipped them have got some great comments about them. They just think they're too strong. They've just got that quality. And bar possibly the forward line, their midfielders, most of their bench would walk into a good team. They seem to have held on to the right ones. Matic had a brilliant season last year. I think if he improves again, which is perfectly possible, that's going to be a scary thought for a lot of Chelsea's opponents. I know Ralphie 1982 mentioned that Kurt Zouma coming through as well. They're in for John Stones again, another good English player that probably will end up going to Chelsea at some point. I think they're hard to see past. Can you give me a weakness with Chelsea?
Hazard gets injured. John Terry's a year older. You don't know how good he's going to be. I think that's why they're after John Stones.
No.
That would be my two concerns.
Okay, fair enough. Man City, a team that I can honestly say OLBG members are not very excited about winning the title. I've got barely any information, feedback or blogs on them. City, obviously the Johnny-come-latelys in the title race, it's theme of the Premier League, Premiership history. Make a case for them. Tell me why 3.75 is a good bet.
One of the best keepers in the league, one of the best centre backs, and probably the most efficient striker in the league. All he needs is half a chance a game and he'll score. I think Aguero is in that category behind Messi and Ronaldo. There's probably a few players, not many, I think he's one of them.
The second tier of good player, I suppose you'd call it. And their weakness for you next season, where are we going to be looking to try and get them beat?
They've got too much weak points now. Their fullbacks are all a year older, and they weren't really convincing last season. And I'm not convinced they're a team. They just don't have that gel that Chelsea do, or even Man U.
Shall I give you my reason why I think City won't win the league? And people will laugh at this. Lacking of James Milner.
It's hard not to laugh at that, but I know what you mean.
I know he's no Aguero. I know he's no Yaya Toure. But whenever he was on that pitch, he was the most consistent Man City player on it. And I just genuinely think they will lack that quality. He didn't start a lot of games, but when he was on the pitch, my word, you could put... And he scored goals, don't forget, for them. Really oddly, because he wasn't in the playing positions to be scoring goals for them. But I think they'll really miss him, and it'll be a bit of an amusing trait to see him doing well at Liverpool, because it'll be a big fish there. And at City, whilst he wasn't particularly star name, I thought he always played well for them, but we shall see. We'll move on to Arsenal now, your selection, so I'll let you have a little bit longer on this one. Go on, why are they going to win the league?
Better check, end of story. I think they were really impressive last season. I think they were just a bit unfortunate with certain injuries at certain times to certain players. And then Arsene Wenger discovered someone who he's had in his squad for a long time in Coquelin, and I think he impressed me the most in the second half of the season. If he repeats that forward, I don't know. I think that's also he brought Cazorla back deeper, and I think that's worked out really well. Having the likes of Ramsey and Wiltshire further forward, who are a bit more energetic, a bit faster, allowing Cazorla to create from deeper. If Arsenal can get a proper striker, I'd be very excited to be an Arsenal fan this season.
And therein lies, you've answered my next question about the weakness. If Arsene Wenger doesn't go out and spend, it's a very similar looking squad with a better goalkeeper, which I don't think will get them over the line. And we'll finish with I think the most intriguing, I'm not a Man United fan by a long stretch of the imagination, but I think they're the most interesting team this season if you're looking to back them. I can't believe how many people are saying good signings, good signings, good signings, when half of them haven't played in the Premier League ever. One's getting big money and is overpriced, possibly. One's come from the Dutch league, which, let's be honest, is not always the league that you want a player to sign from. We've seen strikers sign for £10 million, score 1 goal in 30 games in the Dutch league. Don't think it's quite the ground of football that it once was. Come on then, Man United.
I'm the opposite of what you just said there. I think Depay is a cracking signing. When I seen him going there, I thought, nailed on in my fantasy league. He is talented. I don't watch a lot of Dutch football, admittedly, but his free kicks are just... I challenge OLBG. Anyone that watches this, I challenge you to find 3 free kick takers that are better than him at this current point in time. I think he's just a danger from anywhere on the pitch. I really like him. I think he's going to be huge if played correctly, because I do worry that Di Maria wasn't played correctly. And it worries me that he won't play Depay correctly either. But Schneiderlin interests me more than Schweinsteiger, to be honest.
Interesting. Fair enough. Well, you've had our views, you've had the OLBG members' views. You just need to keep tuned in, because we've got loads of these videos. We've made another one regarding relegation recently. It's well worth a watch because there's about 8-9 teams that we think could be involved in that rather than just the 4 for the title race. Just hit the subscribe button below and then you'll get all your videos that you need. Everything OLBG will be covering. We do golf, we do football, we do boxing, we do everything. Sporting bets matter. We want to get you guys involved as well. If you're a member, just drop us an email and get involved. Follow us on Twitter as well. It's a great way of getting involved. And if you're not a member, we've got some great giveaways. Give away thousands of pounds in bets every month. Just get involved. Just head to the website. It's just Google OLBG and you'll find a world of betting competitions at your fingertips. And we'll get you on the show if you're successful like Gio. And you can come tell us your predictions and we'll either laugh at you or praise you if they're right or wrong. Thank you for watching and we'll speak to you soon. Thank you very much for your efforts, Gio.
That's no problem. I'm waiting for a shower after tipping Arsenal to win the league.
Thank you very much and thank you for watching.